This is Terrence Andre Banks coming today with a fantastic book called The Psychology of Money. As you see here, I've got all these tabs outlined, and it's just pot full of just fantastic wisdom about money itself. I stumbled across this book on another YouTube channel, just watching a video, something financial, and they talked about this author, Morgan Housel. I mean, to do justice to try to do a video about it I won't even do enough. But let me just start off by just explaining how exceptional this book is. It takes you through a history of time and how no one is actually crazy when they're doing their financial aspects. They understand the psychology of it. I'll start off reading the back of the excerpts from it, and then I'm going to go dive right into the book here. You can see all these little tabs I have for it. Doing well with money isn't necessarily about what you know. It's about how you behave. And behavior is hard to teach, even to really smart people. Money, investing, personal finance, and business decisions is typically taught as a much math-based field where data and formulas tell exactly what to do. But in the real world, people don't make financial decisions on a spreadsheet. They make them at a dinner table. That just speaks volumes right there. Or in a meeting room where personal history, your own unique view of the world, ego, pride, marketing, and odd incentives are scrambled together. This is exactly how it is, because nothing functions in this mathematical formula when you deal with people and how they deal with money. It's important to play by your own investing game. People have different rules of different things. I'm going to give you a couple of excerpts here that just really stuck out to me. People do crazy things with money, but no one is crazy. Here's the thing. People from different generations, raised by different parents who earn different incomes and held different values in different parts of the world, born in different economies, experience different job markets with different incentives and different degrees of luck, learn very different lessons. A lot of this is luck, depending on what time you were born. And they breaks these things down in such an easy to read format, and it's just a page turner, just packed full of just general basic knowledge. Well, nothing's common these days with common sense, but this is just important things to know. Do you know what your aunt did before she worked in one of these factories? She was apart from a process of looking at different things from a different perspective. I don't want to read that part. Local stock markets, and he's giving an example here. Local stock markets in Japan, Germany were wiped out during World War II. Entire regions were bombed out. At the end of the war, German farms only produced enough food to provide the country's citizens with 1,000 calories a day. Compare that to the U.S., where the stock market more than doubled from 1941 through the end of 1945, and the economy was the strongest it has been in almost 2 decades. It gives a chart here. You can see that there. The view of money was formed in different worlds. Each person, depending where you were born and where you're going to be at, you're going to have a different view of how money is. Social Security aimed to change this, but its essential benefits were nothing close to a proper pension. When Ida Mayer fully cashed his first Social Security check in 1940, it was $22.54 for $460 adjusted for inflation. It was not until the 1980s that the average Social Security check for retirees exceeded $1,000 a month adjusted for inflation. More than a quarter of Americans over age 65 were classified by the Census Bureau as living in poverty until the late 1960s. Read that again. More than a quarter of Americans over age 65 were classified by the Census Bureau as living in poverty until the late 1960s. You may not know that. I didn't know that. Only a quarter of those aged 65 or older had pensions income in 1975. Among that the lucky minority, only 15% of household incomes came from a pension. You always think the pension's been around and things like that. Luck versus risk. A great chapter right here. Nothing is good or as bad as it seems. Luck and risk are siblings. They are both the reality that every outcome in life is guided by forces other than an individual effort. Worth repeating again. Luck and risk are siblings. They are both the reality that every outcome in life is guided by forces other than the individual effort. Many times people say they're selling a book, they're just telling you about the individual effort. It's everything I did. I worked myself up. And I'm not negating that. I'm just saying that this point that luck and risk are part of this, He gives a story about Bill Gates, and there's another founding partner that no one really knows about. in the world, Bill Gates went to one of the only high schools in the world that had a computer. There's a lucky chance of that happening. Um, Bill Gates had access to an 8th grade, and he couldn't get enough of it. So Gates was 13 years old in 1968 when he had a classmate, Paul Allen. Allen also was obsessed with the school's computer, and the two hit it off. Both Bill and Paul could toy around with this thing at their leisure, letting their creativity run wild. Here's the important part about the luck. One in a million high school age students attended in high school that had the combination of cash and the foresight to buy a computer. Bill Gates happened to be one of them. If there had been no Lakeside, there would have been no Microsoft, he told the school's graduating class in 2005. Gates is staggering smart, even more hardworking, and as a teenager had a vision of computers that even most seasoned computer executives couldn't grasp. He also had a 1 in a million head start by going to a school at Lakeside. See, it's not just the smarts that was in, it had to be going to that school in Lakeside to help that out. When judging others, attributing success to luck makes you look jealous, and even if he knew it was. And when judging yourself, attributing success to luck can be too demoralizing to accept. So the thing is that we don't want to seem like we're hating on someone and saying, some of that thing was luck. But part of it is, and you can't say part of your success was luck because it'd be too more demoralizing you. You want to keep that feeling that I did this. But it's important to know that luck does play a part in this. It's just fascinating what he goes on and things that you really don't really pay attention to. You just kind of think it because the narratives that's being portrayed out, whether people selling something or you're a celebrity or even someone doing financial, you're not taking consideration of timing factors, the luck factor, and as well risk. Be careful who you praise and who you admire. Be careful who you look down upon and wishing to avoid becoming. Or just be careful when assuming that 100% of outcomes can be attributed to effort and decisions. After my son was born, I wrote him a letter that said in part, some people are born into families that encourage education. Others are against it. Some are born to flourishing economies, encouraging entrepreneurship. Others are born into war and destitution. I want you to be successful and I want you to earn, but realize that not all success is due to hard work and not all poverty is due to laziness. I want to repeat that. Not all success is due to hard work and not all poverty is due to laziness. Keep this in mind when judging people, including yourself. Therefore, focus less on specific individuals and case studies and more on broad patterns. He talks about focusing on broad patterns here. There's a chapter here called Getting Wealthy, Staying Wealthy. And this book is one you have to have in your arsenal. You should have it in your libraries. I can't stress this enough. But there's only one way to stay wealthy, some combination of frugality and paranoia. I like that. By age 30, he was worth the inflation-adjusted equivalent of $100 million. Talking about Jesse Livermore, how he lost all this money. I'll let you read that yourself. Very important. More than I want big returns, I want to be financially unbreakable. And if I'm unbreakable, I actually think I'll get the biggest returns because I'll be able to stick around long enough for compounding to work wonders. With the story about Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett is a fantastic one. It does explain about how time is such a big factor in terms of gaining and obtaining wealth, but it's really not talked about enough. It's the reason why they're so successful because they started so early and they had the extra luxury of being born at a time, and time is the contributing factor. If you can do many things, if you have control more of your time, and the compounding is one, especially wealth. Planning is important, but the most important part of every plan is a plan on the plan not going according to plan. Repeat that again. This is very good. I wish I knew this early in my financial career. Planning is important, but the most important part of every plan is a plan on the plan not going according to plan. He's playing upon words here, but things just don't go according to plan. And some things are out of your control. A barbell personality, optimistic about the future, but paranoid about what will prevent you from getting the future is vital. It's another point things there. Tails you in. Most of the things are won by the tail end. It's not by the biggest thing they're putting out. It's something that may come off from the cuff and that may propel you to success. He does a whole chapter about that, and it's just fascinating to see in that point. I just can't. What else is he having? This book is just phenomenal, and I can't say enough. You and me. Beware taking financial cues from people playing a different game than you are. Very important. We listen to a lot of people on podcasts, myself, podcasts, financial aspects, but they may be playing a different financial game than you are. And you're not aware of that. And you're functioning just going by their tips and things that they're saying and not realizing that may not be the game for you. I also got some other things here. Some real good points at the end. Go to there. More pages. Manage your money in a way that helps you sleep at night. Very important. If you want to do better as an investor, the single most important thing you need to do is increase your time horizon. Well said. Become okay with a lot of things going wrong. You can be wrong half the time and still make a fortune. The good things that you should really remember is that, as a whole, use money to gain control over your time, because not having control of your time is such a powerful and universal drag on business. The ability to do what you want, when you want, with the people you want, for as long as you want, pays the highest dividend that exists in finance. It's really control of your time. When you find out that to be the most important factor. Be nicer and less flashy. Just giving you just some general great, good things to think about and operate on. Save, just save. You don't need a specific reason to save. It's just to save for a car, down payment, medical emergency. But save for things that are possible to predict or define is one of the best reasons to save. Workshop room for error. Define the cost of success and be ready to pay it. Confessions. Psychology of my own money. He talks about how he handles his own money, and he was very honest about it. How he thinks about investing. And then he explains a brief history of the way the U.S. consumer thinks, a brief history of why the U.S. consumer thinks the way they do. This part, you should just take your time and read it. Explains what happened during different time periods that makes people operate the way they do financially. And what we also need to consideration that things are constantly moving, constantly changing. Things are always, for the most part in America, are getting better financially, but at the same time, we're going to have a lot of tailwinds and different things that's going to affect us. One thing I don't think he did in the book to stress enough is that where we're at in the story plays a big part as well. Where he touched on it, saying that we're now at over 100% consumer debt for each individual to take on. And most times, the most prosperity came when each individual as a whole didn't have as much debt, and they were under 50 to 60%, which allow future growth. He does touch on that, but not enough to say that, energy has a big part to play in this, and we don't take that into consideration enough. That without cheaper forms of energy, it makes it hard. It makes it very hard to get this biggest growth and prosperity unless they find out some new things to control energy to make it more efficient. That's the biggest factor that doesn't talk about enough. Where we're at in the story in terms of how we are in mining efficiency, and we're on a finite planet, and finite planets have finite resources. All of the stories we're talking about, even for the Warren Buffetts and stuff like that, they were born at a time where resources and things seem to be more unlimited, and we're more facing more challenges where things are more limited and resources are more scarce. So I just want to put that part in that, and debt has never been taken on in these massive amounts that we've done before. Even it was done before, the world wars. They usually have a mechanism to get back on because they can make production growth, and you have a large cohort of population, which is demographics. He does talk about demographics a little bit in the psychology of money, but we're also facing an aging world, an aging population where we're not having as many children and people not being born as much. Finite planet, it is, but most of our systems are based on new people coming in, for lack of a better term, as a Ponzi scheme to pay for the old. So those are the factors that have to be taken into consideration. But this book, it's just changed I encourage my girls and my daughters to read some of this. I'm going to get them to read it. They're at the age to read some things like this, so it's and they'll get a better understanding, especially my oldest daughter's in college. The Room for Error is one of a fantastic chapter here. The most important part of every plan is planning when you're planning, not going to plan. I can't stress enough about reading that chapter, maybe reading it twice. Understand that risk and reward. Wealth is what you don't see. Another fantastic chapter. Spending money to show people how much money you have is the fastest way to have less money. And we live in a society where everything is based on people knowing what you have. Many were mediocre success who spend a huge percent of their paycheck on a car. Also talks about how psychology works in terms of, because people had visions of things before where wealth was more shared, I should say, before 1980, and you were able to then, most of the people around you have the same things. It may have the sense of, hey, I can get the same things as well, because that's the narrative, and that narrative hasn't changed, even though financial circumstances and wealth has been dramatically changed. But we still believe some things are just, we should still have the same things as others, when financially you can't do that. Maybe I did a good enough job here, but the book does a great job of outlining that. Can't stress this book enough. You got to get it. The Psychology of Money, Timeless Lessons in Wealth, Greed, and Happiness, Morgan Housel. Again, I saw this on another YouTube channel, but wanted to pick it up. Encourage you to read it. It's a fantastic book. The author is very transparent and makes it very easy to read, and you'll like the way he puts things in place, and it makes you just to think as a whole. And it's short, and you can see all the excerpts here I've highlighted. All these different little dog ears, and even put these sticky note things as well. If this video has been any value to you, please subscribe. Subscribe to the channel. Share this video. Until my next video for Information Age Financial Solutions, I'm out.